somebody sent me a note on Twitter saying, well, if Enbridge had done all this prep work, the Green Party would have said, oh, you can't trust Enbridge, you can't trust any of the work they did. So
I don't recall ever having said we wouldn't trust their research. This is, I mean, it's fine to be cynical, but the reality is the facts are the facts. Enbridge did not produce one single solitary study, not one page of information about how dilbit behaves in the environment. They treated dilbit and crude as if they were exactly the same thing, and therefore they were not required to talk about the product. For that matter, and there's another aspect to what Enbridge is proposing, is that the tankers will arrive, if they get away with this, in Kitimat loaded with diluent. People tend to forget what diluent is. It's highly toxic material. We don't know how diluent by itself behaves in the environment because diluent can be almost anything. There's no chemical composition to diluent. It's sort of naphtha. Sometimes they throw in benzene. Sometimes they throw in butane. It can be any number of things. It's sort of like wondering what was in those rail cars at Lac Mégantic. These things are not chemical compositions that one can understand without actually knowing what they are. So first, Enbridge plans to bring tankers in full of diluent. We did know that when 5 rail cars were hanging over the Bow River in Calgary, those were loaded with diluent heading to northern Alberta to mix with the bitumen, because otherwise the bitumen won't flow. Then coming back out the other end, you've got dilbit. I think it was incumbent on Enbridge to submit to the National Energy Board Joint Review Panel some information about the products they plan to ship. They didn't. So it's fine to say, well, the Green Party would complain. We oppose supertanker traffic on the BC coastline. We oppose the use of our coastlines for the transport of crude or dilbit. But since we know something about how crude gets cleaned up in the environment, and we know nothing about how diluent or the mixture dilbit behaves in the marine environment, we think Enbridge gets a complete fail on its submission to the National Energy Board. We support what the BC government said. The fact that the federal government is using our tax dollars to backstop Enbridge's failure is shocking. And the fact that we're preparing to provide weather forecasting for tanker traffic that doesn't now exist up and down the BC coastline is, again, it's this building of an infrastructure for the future before a project's been approved. This is jumping the gun.
There is no dilbit research being done. And Enbridge said that they would have, essentially they would be effectively provide a world-class response. But you can't do that without understanding what dilbit goes and how it behaves in ocean water. The feds have stepped up to do that research, or some of it, and you know, that's all very fine and dandy, but normal research is done through a public process, a public tender process, a call for proposals, and so on and so forth. This is just being done by federal government at a time that they're cutting left, right, and center. The federal government has cut its marine contaminants division. There is no longer a marine contaminants division of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. So it's kind of ironic that here we are spending millions and millions on doing this specific industry-focused research when you've cut the Marine Contaminants Division, which did research in the public good. That's what was the original mandate.